What's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on Pub Stomp MTG. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at Zur Eternal Schemer. Before I get into Zur Eternal Schemer, I like to mention that Dominaria is probably one of the best commander sets in my opinion. There's so much variety and I have been brewing non-stop with all these commanders that have been coming out. I think there's over 40 commanders that came out with this set, including the pre-con commanders. If there's more, let me know down below. But I think overall, this is a really fantastic set for commander. Lots of variety to choose from. Today, we're going to be looking over Zur Eternal Schemer and how I would build the deck. So he reads, flying enchantment creatures you control have death touch, lifelink, and hexproof, and pay 1 and a white. Target non-aura enchantment you control becomes a creature in addition to its other types and has base power and base toughness, each equal to its mana value. So I think by alone, with that first ability, having enchantment creatures you control have death touch, lifelink, and hexproof is really good by itself, but it's just gravy on top of that, making your enchantments also creatures as well. So if you want to avoid like a target removal on your enchantment, you can just make your enchantment into a creature, and then that will have hexproof as well. So overall, this is a really fantastic commander. So today we're going to go over some of the options you may want to include in the deck. I've included some of the Theos gods, also some constellation cards, and sagas. Sagas are fantastic in this deck, and we'll explain why. But first, let's get into some of the Theos gods. We have Heliod Sun Crowned and Heliod God of the Sun. These are fantastic in the deck because Heliod God of the Sun will make creature tokens, and also Heliod because a lot of our creatures are going to have lifelink because of Zur's ability. Heliod is just going to make them bigger and bigger as we get more lifelink on the battlefield. We do also have Erebos God of the Dead and Erebos Bleak Hearted. These are also really fantastic options as well. Athreos God of the Passage and Athreos Shroud Veil is really great in here too. I really like Athreos God of the Passage especially in here because whenever another creature you own dies, return to the hand unless opponent pays 3 life. This is a pretty aggressive deck because we are making a lot of our enchantments into creatures, so we're going to be swinging a lot because of how much enchantments we'll have as creatures with Zur's ability. So I would definitely recommend having the gods in here because they have a lot of really great abilities. But moving along to the Saga cards, we have a lot of fantastic Saga cards. We have cards like Eldest Reborn that has people sacrificing creatures, discarding, and then reanimating. Fantastic. We also have Cruelty of Gix as well because you'll be able to discard people's cards, also searching library with a tutor, and also reanimating as well. Phasing of Xanathar is also fantastic because you can phase your permanents and then destroy all creatures after that. Also, a lot of the cards from the Kamigawa cycle that made sagas were really fantastic because they turn into creatures after that. For example, like Animus of the Night's Reach is fantastic because whenever it attacks, give +X/0 until in a turn, where X is the number of creature cards in the defending player's graveyard. So it gets really big, really fast if there's a lot of creatures in the graveyard. So we also do have Portrait of Mishko, which is also gets 1/1 for each artifact and enchantment you control. It's a really great option because we're going to be definitely playing a lot of enchantments in this deck, so it's going to get really huge really fast. There are also some really great cards like Elspeth Conquers Death and Kiora Best the Sea God from the Theros Beyond Death set. Super great cards because Elspeth Conquers Death is a great removal option, and also Kiora Best the Sea God is a game ender by itself sometimes because you'll be making those 8/8 blue Krakens. Also, we want to make sure we keep these sagas on the field if you want to. We have Flicker of Fate and Amantu the Fate Shifter. If you want to keep your enchantments on the battlefield, these are really great options because Flicker of Fate will just put it back on the battlefield, restarting back to 1 with the sagas. Also Amantu the same way. Some other cards that synergize with sagas are cards like Historian's Boon from the new Dominaria United set. Whenever this card or another non-token enchantment enters the battlefield, you make 1/1 white soldier tokens. Also, whenever the final chapter ability from a saga you control triggers, you create a 4/4 white angel vigilance token as well, so really great options right there. There's definitely a lot more sagas you could use in your commander deck, but I just chose these because these are really good in my opinion. We do also have Constellation as well, which is really fantastic in this deck because we could take advantage of those Constellation triggers. We have cards like Archon of Sun's Grace, Grim Guardian, and Doomwake Giant. In some cases, because we're playing so much enchantments, these can be game enders. With Archon of Sun's Grace, you're just going to be making 2/2 white Pegasus creature tokens all the time. Grim Guardian is going to drain people constantly with life, and Doomwake Giant will be be a board wipe constantly when you play so much enchantments. We do also have Skybind, which is really great too, because whenever another enchantment or Skybind enters the battlefield under your control, exile target non-enchantment permanent. What makes Skybind so fantastic in this deck is because when we're playing Sagas, we could just put this in and then restart them all the time whenever enchantments enter the battlefield. We also have Protean Thermophage. I can't say that correctly, but whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, you may become a copy of another target creature and have this ability. So if there's a really scary creature on the battlefield, now you have one as well. So since we have constellation cards, we might as well go even further with cards that benefit with enchantment synergies. We have cards like Estryd's Invocation, Starfield of Nyx, Sigil of the Empty Throne, and Hallowed Haunting. To me, these are all insane options. I especially love Starfield of Nyx, making all your non-aura enchantments you control into creatures, and you don't have to worry about using Xur's ability to make enchantments into creatures. Starfield of Nyx, you just don't have to worry about that. That's a really great option. Also really great for Sagas as well. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So whenever a Saga kind of camps out of the battlefield, you can put it back on there and repeat and recycle. Really great option there. Also Sigil, the Empty Throne, and Hallowed Haunting. Insane cards, make a token generation as well. Because we're getting really great benefits out of our enchantments, we want to make sure we're getting value off of them as well. We want to make sure we protect them, and we also have really game-winning options there. We have cards like Greater Aromancy, which is really fantastic in this deck because other enchantments you control have Shroud, so your enchantments are even harder to remove because of that. We have Enchanted Evening, which makes all permanent enchantments in addition to their other types. We also have Extinguish All Hope, which destroys all non-enchantment creatures. But also one tip, if you have Enchanted Evening on the battlefield, I would not play Extinguish All Hope until Enchanted Evening is not on the battlefield, because you won't be able to destroy all creatures because they're enchantments as well to addition to their types. A really great land to include in this deck would be Hall of Helios Generosity. Auto include for sure, because you could put target enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library, so you can get that value out of your Sagas or other cards as well. There's also another really insane card in my opinion that you may want to use in this deck because you're running so many Sagas. There's Dance of the Manse. Return up to X target artifacts or non-aura enchantments cards, each with mana X value or less, in your graveyard to the battlefield. If X is 6 or more, those permanents are 4/4 creatures in addition to their types. So really insane card right here in my opinion, getting all your Sagas from the graveyard to the battlefield, getting value off of them, and making them into creatures. This will definitely help end the game as well. Speaking of ending the game, we also do have All That Glitters. Enchanted creature gets 1/1 for each enchantment you control. You could attach that aura to Xur and swing in for commander lethal damage because he does have flying, and also a lot of life gain as well will come about that. So really great option right there. I also had to throw in Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood in here because they're really great cards that synergize with lifelink as well, so I'd definitely add those in there as well. There are definitely a lot more cards to add into the list here, but I do have a deck list down below if you want to check it out. So here's my thoughts about Xur Eternal Schemer. He's a really interesting commander in my opinion because he has a lot of things going for him. If you wanted to go Enchantress but didn't really want to go into those Selesnya colors, because we do have a really great Enchantress with Sithis Harvest Tan. I do feel compared to Sithis that this is a pretty aggressive deck because we're going to be making our enchantments into creatures, and they have lifelink, death touch, and hexproof, which is really great. I do honestly really like hexproof added in there because, like I mentioned before at the beginning of the video, you can make an enchantment into a creature so that it gets hexproof. So I think this is really great. So again, I want to thank you all for the support for this channel. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. That's definitely the best way to support it. So with that out of the way, thank you for stopping